So past and present Waterford hurlers have been lighting up the Western Championships this season. It's down to the last four this weekend in the intermediate and junior competitions. And Tony Ryan from the Dungarvan Observer is here to pick his winners. And Tony, will get straight into it. Clashmore versus Ryan, Saturday 1 o'clock in Fairfield. And Ryan won by 13 points when they met in the first round. I expecting a much closer affair this time around.
Probably will seen that there's more at stake, but definitely on Ryan will be favourites to win this. They are, as an intermediate team, they are a very good intermediate team, a very solid team. They couldn't hack it above in senior ranks, but definitely in intermediate, very hard to beat them. Like in last year now, they went to Ballysagle to beat them in the semi-final, I think, and there wasn't much in that. So they will be favourites. I'm sure Clashmore Kilbeg will have their homework done. As regards like the main on Ryan man, of course, is Donny Banach, and he scored 212 the last day, and the big question is will Clashmore Kilbeg employ Ty de Burka on Donny, which I think he could do a good marking job on him, but then again it might leave Clashmore Kilbeg a bit open in another area in the field around the centre of the defence. So that's the big question. On Ryan are not a one-man team by any means at all. You know, they have some very good players. I'd say they're the better team. I'd imagine that Clashmore Kilbeg can be a more spiritual team and a tougher team. So it will be a very interesting clash. But it would be regarded, I say, as a surprise if Ryan didn't qualify for the final.
Clashmore really showed that spirit last weekend, Tony, clinging on with 13 men against Medeligo. How influential have Ty de Burka and Brian O'Halloran been in their campaign so far?
Yeah, well, Tyke is definitely he's coming on from game to game following his injury, and with all the twists and turns that he was doing last week, you could say it's completely out of his head at this stage. That he's that's something in the past. And Brian as well. I think Brian got 4 or 5 points at least from play. You know, so they are influential. But there's other fine players too. We're still have to get the best, I think, out of Ed O'Halloran. You know, and then we have Sam Fitzgerald is coming through very well. Adam O'Sullivan came on as a sub, and I thought he did fantastic work towards the end of that when they were down to 13 men. You know, but I don't think they have the same balance as on Ryan. But I wouldn't write them off. I mean, they're former champions. Is it maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah,
you know, so I say there's definitely this weekend. All the games and all the different grades are great to see. You know, it's an awful pity that a lot of people can't see those games. You know, and the way the championships are being run, I think there's a lot to be said from. Say, if we ever get back to a normal year, if we ran the championships the same way and maybe had a 2-week break between the games and then go on to the football and have a 2-week, and then we won't have to go to the Fairfield on cold winter nights anymore. At the end, we can play all these games at the right time of the year, and that's one good thing about at the moment. Every game that's been played has been too warm on some occasions, but overall, again this weekend, weather shouldn't be a problem.
No, sure shouldn't be a problem. And turning to the second semi-final, then Tony, Ballyduff Upper versus Shamrock, Sunday 2 o'clock in Fairfield, and Mikey Carney is in red hot form at the moment. 2-10 against Ballinameela, 4-9 against St Mary's last weekend. Is he the one that the Shamrocks have to stop?
Definitely. He's playing his best club hurling. You know, I don't think for the last number of years he produced it for club, but you can't say that about him now. It was fantastic, and last week was fantastic as well. So that's a big call on the Shamrocks. Like, have they a person to mark him and to watch him? Ballyduff are just down from senior. Shamrocks are improving. There's no doubt about it. I think they're not the young team that we regard them as the last few years. They're matured. The younger players are matured. They have Colin Roach back, and he's absolutely flying. And he's a player that Ballyduff will have to watch. Remember years and years ago, I think both of them joined up for underage. It was Ballyduff Shamrocks played before pre-Coach Breed, and even though I don't think they're the nearest of neighbours, you know, on this occasion anyway, they will be very separate. But you have to fancy Ballyduff. You know, I think Shamrocks have showed improvement this year, and they've reached the semi-finals. I think it would be a surprise if they beat this Ballyduff team, even though Ballyduff played poorly now the first day against Ballinameela. But from the start, the last day, I think they had 5 goals up at half time. And as you say, Mikey Kearney will be a man to match. But overall, they're seasoned campaigners from the senior grade. It'll be a great match with Ballyduff qualifying, I think.
And will Colm Roach be on Liam Cahill's radar, Tony, especially after shooting 16 points against Ardmore last week?
Well, I'd say, I think he has a lot to offer. He was on the minor team, wasn't he, in 2013?
That's right. And under 21 team as well.
He's still 23. Is it just 23 or 24?
Mm.
What he has, it isn't just from free taking. He's a good player overall, strong player, and he was missing last year for Shamrocks. You can see the difference in the Shamrocks this year with him, and I think it's bringing on the players around him as well. So I'd say he's not to be discounted. I think he has a future still in inter-county, and his brother Shane in far behind him.
Absolutely. And turning to the Junior A semi-finals then, Tony, Saturday 3 o'clock, Dungarvan Club Grounds. It's Colligan versus Abbeyside. Colligan lost pretty surprisingly to the Ryan second team in the first round, but have Michael Ryan's charges recovered since then?
They have. They're gathering momentum. They had a good win against the Geraldines, and they scored 224. And that's a huge score. They have Ross Brown back as well, and they seem to be on momentum. This is a title they dearly love to win. They've been very close in the past number of years. After the first game, we all thought that Colligan were gone, but no, I think they're in with a good shout. They'll be very driven to win this game, but I don't think you can call it. I think there's absolutely nothing between both sides, between Colligan and Abbeyside. Both of them have very good free takers, in John Wall for Colligan, Colm Kindrigan for Abbeyside. Abbeyside are probably a more seasoned team. They have players down from senior, then again they have players coming up from the underage. With Colligan, they always seem to be caught for numbers on the bench. If something goes wrong, have the players on the bench to come on and make a difference. Even though Abbeyside have lost a few to the senior team and lost a few through injuries, they still seem to have players the whole time, and that could be the difference in the end. You can't just say who's going to win this game. It could go anyway.
Very good, very good. And turning to Sunday then, 4 o'clock in Cappoquin, Tony, Turin versus Bricky Rangers. We have Brickies, who were relegated from intermediate in 2019, coming up against, Shane and Dara Fives for Turin. Dara got 17 points last weekend against Ryan. A remarkable tally. Who do you fancy in this one?
Yeah, I think that's what you said there sums up Turin. Dara scored was 17 points. They're not balanced enough. I don't think they're balanced enough. They will have a lot of encouragement from last week by winning by so much and dominating the game from the start. But I don't think they have their Achilles heel always is their forward line don't score, can't score. And on the other side of it, then you have the Brickies. You say they're down from intermediate. They haven't played well in both of their games so far, and they've still won. They didn't play well against Kilrostany in the first half, and they didn't play well the last day either. So against Abbeyside, I thought in the start against Abbeyside, they were very poor, and they came through. But there must be still more in the Brickies. And it would be a huge surprise if the Brickies don't win this one.
Well, there's wall-to-wall Western coverage in the Dungarvan Observer this week, so do check it out if you can. Tony Ryan, thanks as always for dropping in today.
Mr. Moss.
We love Waterford. We are WLR.
So there'll be new winners in the Eastern Championships in 2020, and Chairman Michael O'Brien is on the line. Tell us more ahead of this weekend's semi-finals. And first of all, Michael, is it a surprise that the defending champions in both grades, Ballygunner and Ballydurn, have been knocked out so early?
That is a surprise to us. It is a surprise in the intermediate with Ballygunner. They won the intermediate championship so easy last year and won it by big scoring margins there. And they lost a few players there, 3 or 4 players to senior, and I think Stephen Power's gone back playing junior, so they lost them. But it was a big surprise. I expected them to be there and thereabouts. I didn't expect them to be gone this early. And Ballydurn won their Eastern final convincingly as well. And they had a few injuries there, but I was at the game against Ballygunner, and Ballygunner looked impressive in the junior. So it was for the champions not to win any game. It was probably disappointing for them. They'll have to just go back and rebuild again.
Absolutely. Looking at the intermediate semi-finals, first of all, Michael, on Saturday evening, 6 o'clock in Dunhill, we have Ballyduflore versus Erin's Own. And I believe Calum Lyons is in flying form with Ballyduflore at the moment. Will they be favourites going into this one?
I said favourites to most. Calum Lyons was playing great stuff for Ballyduflore. I saw him against Dunhill now, and I saw him against Ballygunner. And class act, like, and class man on the field, like, you know, and in fairness, he's assisted by his brother Jack as well, and the two Dumfries there, and Jack Kendi in full forward for Ballyduff. So Ballyduff will be favourites for that one. But Aaron's Own had a good win now against Butlerstown last week, and Aaron's Own have the likes of Darragh Flynn, you'd have the likes of Conor Byrne, you'd have Tommy Byrne there, and David Byrne. The Aaron's Own won't give up that easy, like, you know what I'm saying? Aaron's Own, I think that's going to be close enough as well, like, you know, but Ballyduff would be favourites, yeah.
Yeah, like Tommy Warren has been a real sharpshooter for them in recent years for Aaron's Own, Michael. 112 last week.
Yeah, very good, Tomas. Yeah, very good on frees now. Very, 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 very Mr. Free, like, you know, and from overall play, his contribution is very good as well, like, you know. So, and look, Aaron's Own are going to be hard to beat as well. Darragh Flynn is another good scoring forward. They won't be too bad, like.
Sunday evening, then 6 o'clock in Kill, Michael. It's Dunhill versus Portlaw. This is a real derby game, I suppose. How fierce is the rivalry between these two?
So that rivalry goes back to the 70s when the two of them were winning championships, like Portlaw winning championships in the 70s and Dunhill were in championships. They had the Whalens there in the 70s. You had Martin Hickey, John Gallivan, Paul Kelly, and you had Tom Casey, Rob Power, John Power on the goal as well in Dunhill. So that's going back to the 70s and they're still going strong. But it's a good, healthy rivalry now, like, you know what I'm saying? This is going to be a cracker of a game too, I think, like, but like. Dunhill overcame Ballygunner and overcame Ballyduff and had to go the hard way about it in the draw, but played well against Ballygunner, like, so they'll be favourites to that. But Portlaw are coming good at the right time as well, like they beat a fancy De La Salle team last week. So look, that's a hard one to call, but Dunhill would be favourites, like. But then again, favourites are there to be toppled as well, Tomas. You know that as well as I do. Absolutely,
like, and Dunhill were runners up in this competition last year, Michael. Do they look stronger than they were last season?
Well, they do, Tomas, because you have they're getting a few lads there. They're assisted by Bull Mayer. So Micheál Harney's made a wicked difference to him there. Like, you know, he's centre back there and he's playing very well. And then you have like Shane Casey, Eamon Murphy, you have Jamie Sage, a few of them guys, young Bonner. Dunhill are good. But Portlaw have the likes of, like, you have Frank Gallivan, you have John D, Darren Rocket, you have Jamie Murphy, then you have DJ. DJ's playing wicked well, like, you know. DJ got 2-6 against De La Salle last week, so DJ is going to be a handful for anyone, like. So if Portlaw are going to win, DJ will have to play well. They play very well as well, you know.
I suppose it's just a pity, Michael, that more people can't go along and see this game on Sunday evening. I'm sure there would have been huge demand in normal circumstances.
There's a wicked demand for tickets as it is, Tomas. Like, clubs ringing up to see are they taking their allocation. So look, it is a big pity, but you have to go on health and safety, the government guidelines. But because I think that match would attract, you'd have people from Clonade and Mullins, probably Fenner coming to that match, and city clubs that come out to see that match with the right there between Portlaw and Dunhill.
And just finally, Michael, let's touch on the Junior A Semi Finals. Mount Sion versus Tramore, Saturday, 3 o'clock in Fenner, and Rowan Moore versus Ballygunner, Sunday, also 3 o'clock in St. Saviour's. Who has been the standout team in this competition so far?
So, like, the four of them, they're hard to call because Mount Sion beat Tramore by a point, I think, in the league thing, and Rowan Moore beat Ballygunner. Where I saw Ballygunner against Ballydurn. I was wicked impressed with Ballygunner. So Rowan Moore must be very good, and Mount Sion that have the likes of Donald Power and ex-senior, so Tramore that have Martin Field and a few of them, Brian Murray. Like, they're hard to call now, Tomas. Like I wouldn't be like the one to be calling them, and I think, like, Mount Sion Tramore will be a tight game, like, you know, and like a point separated in the league team, so I couldn't call that one. And I definitely, Rowan Moore beat Ballygunner in the league, but knockout is different, and I definitely couldn't call the Rowan Moore Ballygunner one either, like, you know.
Great stuff. Well, plenty of tight and tense knockout clashes to come in the East this weekend. Michael O'Brien, Eastern Chairman, thanks very much for taking the call today.
No bother. Thank you, Tomas. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Well, thanks so much for tuning into this edition of Lorne Páirce. A reminder that the Skoda Big Match is back on WLR this weekend. Tune in for live coverage of Ballygunner versus 4 Mile Water on Saturday evening from 6:20 and Lismore versus Abbeyside on Sunday evening from 6:05. Until next time, slán go fóill.